Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me for my weekly guitar blog. It's February 8th, 2015, and this week we're going to be covering how you can start creating more unique guitar solos. And this week's question was sent in from Dwight. He's out in Fairfield, Iowa, and he wrote in with this email. I'm having trouble learning to play interesting solos. I can't seem to create unique ideas with scale tones. Are there any tips you could give me in this area? I really think that I need to learn how to create more directions in my solos. They just don't seem to have much to them. Any suggestions for creating more interesting soloing from scales would be excellent. Thank you, from Dwight in Fairfield, Iowa, USA. Well, hey, thanks for writing in, Dwight. The most common problem that students will tend to face when they're learning how to solo is learning how to break away from the scale runs. And one of the reasons for this, it has to basically do to how we study our shapes when we rehearse the patterns on the neck. We generally practice scales in a very sterile way that to the ear are typically quite boring and uninspiring. So when you switch over to trying to play lead and solo with those scales, it can be kind of difficult. Now in this video, I wanted to explore how to add more natural continuity, how to imply space, and how to break up and syncopate your melodies to allow for a much greater flow across the measures of your future guitar solos. Well, in my first example, I wanted to cover the important area of maintaining continuity from a melodic line. Now, the process of working up strong melodic lines in our solos has a lot to do with discovering a melodic hook and then building from it. And the overall connection that any melodic line can have for a listener is something that requires a lot of practice, obviously. And in the following example, I want you to really pay attention to how the hook is generated, especially how we're targeting in to a specific note. So first I want to play this idea for you, give you a chance to hear how it sounds. All right, so you notice how the melody targets into the root of the scale. It's basically a B idea, kind of a boogie-woogie idea. You can hear that obviously there, and we're pointing right into the root of that line. Really pushes right into it. Now the listener is going to continually be drawn to that note. They're going to be expecting that note across the line, and that's really important for your continuity. It's essentially, if the listener can anticipate where the line is headed, then you've really found the trick to gaining strong continuity. Well, in my second example, I'm going to demonstrate a part that works at implying space across melodic lines. Now, in using this concept, you want to keep in mind that it can be done in two ways, either through sustaining of a note, as I'm going to do in this example, or it could also be accomplished through the use of silence, or what we would, of course, also refer to as the use of rests musically. Now, you want to listen to this example that I've created and notice all the space that becomes a major part of the line through the use of these longer note sustains, because it really makes a cool impact. So here's how this part sounds. All right. Well, something else that I'm sure you noticed right away with this line here is how I used bends and vibrato to enhance the sustain of a note. Now, you don't have to do that. You could just play a note and let it sustain out. But in this example, you could kind of tell these techniques, they really help build the line a little more. And I think, if you remember them, keep them, in your toolkit, they're going to make a big difference in the sound and the feel of your guitar lines. And they really act quite nicely to pull your listener a little bit more into the parts that you create. Well, in the next example, I wanted to discuss the idea of breaking up melodies. A lot of students who are new to soloing with the scale patterns will have trouble not only with this idea of a broken phrasing feel, but they'll also generally take too long to begin applying fragmented scale shapes and layouts that act really well to break up the overall scale pattern and apply a much more broken feel to the melodic lines. So for the next melody line, I've done a simple example of a melody just like that. It's just kind of fragmented. It's going to be pentatonic based, and I'll play it for you, give you a chance to hear it. It sounds like this. Well, as you could tell, that example only used a small group of notes, basically some pentatonic ideas. And the idea, though, is they were broken up enough, both rhythmically and across the scale pattern, so geometrically they're kind of fragmented, and they're not really in line. They're broken more. So in doing it, like that, you get a kind of more choppy, irregular effect in the end. I should mention that I made up the melodies first, and then you can hear I'm using a loop pedal. The chord progression that I created to play in behind these things, I had to, of course, match it to the groove and everything of the melodic line. So you could tell even the rhythm guitar part is kind of choppy as well. So, this is stuff to think about because, as you build your lines, you're probably going to need to rhythmically take care of the progression properly in the background. And, they're going to feed off of each other hand in hand. So just to take this really choppy, irregular effect to heart, because breaking apart and fragmenting the geometrical patterns of the scale is a really cool way to create unique melodic ideas. Well, in my final example, I wanted to address one of the more overlooked ideas for creating that unique sounding idea in your solos, and that's the use of using syncopation. And when a melody line is syncopated, it becomes very choppy and very broken sounding. Oftentimes, the effect really pulls out a very funky feel because the meter happens to be like that. We're going to be using quite a few 16th notes that are syncopated. So for this last example, I put together a very syncopated melodic line that could most certainly be thought of as a funky style of melody, and I'm going to play it in a second, but I really hope all of these ideas are going to be giving you a pretty good start for creating a lot more interesting effects in all your future guitar solos. Moving from the general daily scale practice routine of patterns and shapes to the actual use and the application of them is not only important, but it can also be a little bit overwhelming too. So make sure that you have plenty of jam tracks to work on and spend time testing out new soloing ideas as well. Each of the techniques described in this lesson plan are only a few of the popular ways that we can use to make our solos more interesting sounding. There are certainly others like dynamics, speed, flashy techniques, repetition ideas, and of course guitar licks taken from your favorite players. And over time you'll build a large vocabulary of these devices. All it takes is practice and a serious dedication to playing great guitar solos. Anyway, that's about all the time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great week, and we'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now. The Music Reading Phase 1 ebook has over 30 pages of comprehensive project lessons covering the entire fifth reading position on the guitar. Music reading charts and drills will work to help students memorize the placement of the fifth position notes, including important sharp and flat tones. Several original and classic pieces of sheet music will help students to gain a solid understanding for this region of the neck. Rhythm studies, duration examples, plus song and location drills along with 19 MP3 audio tracks makes this one of the best music reading courses available online. Music Reading Phase 1 is available for instant download in the View Our Products area at creativeguitarstudio.com.